The sun was setting behind the tall buildings of the city, casting long shadows on the empty streets. James walked alone, feeling tired after a long day at work. He liked the quiet of this time, but today something felt different. A cold breeze passed by, and he heard a strange humming sound in the air. He stopped and looked around, but no one was there. Suddenly, a small flash of light appeared in front of him, bright and glowing. From the light, a tiny figure stepped out, no taller than 4 feet. It was a girl, but not like any girl James had ever seen. Her skin was pale blue, with faint glowing marks on her arms and face. Her eyes were large and deep purple, shining like stars. She wore a simple silver dress that seemed to move with her, almost alive. James took a step back, his heart beating fast, unsure if she was dangerous or not. The girl looked at James quietly, her small hands folded in front of her. She spoke in a soft voice. "Do not be afraid. I mean no harm." James blinked, surprised to hear her speak in perfect English. Who are you?" He asked carefully, trying to stay calm. "I am called Lyra," she said simply. "I have come to find you." James frowned. "Find me? Why?" Lyra smiled a little but did not answer. Instead, she raised her hand, and James felt a strange warmth on his skin. The air around him seemed to shimmer, and objects near him began to move slowly. His phone floated from his pocket to his hand without anyone touching it. James dropped it, shocked and scared. "What is this? How are you doing this?" Lyra's eyes glowed softly. "I have powers you do not understand. I can control things around you." James wanted to run, but his feet would not move. As if invisible strings held him, he struggled, but it was no use. Lyra stepped closer, her voice calm. "You cannot escape. But you do not need to fear me." James looked into her eyes and felt a strange pull, like a magnet. He did not know if it was fear, curiosity, or something else. Suddenly, a loud noise broke the quiet. The sound of sirens far away. James remembered. He needed to get home, but his body still would not obey. Lyra whispered, "You are mine now. You will do what I say." James' mind raced. Was this a trap? Was he in danger? He tried to think clearly, but the power inside him seemed to fade. Everything around him obeyed the tiny alien girl's will, and he was helpless. Lyra smiled again, but this time it was colder, more serious. "I am not here to hurt you, but to protect something important. You will help me." James shook his head weakly. "Help you? How? I don't even know what you want." Lyra stepped back and looked at the sky, where strange stars seemed to shine brighter. "My world is dying. I came here to find a way to save it," she said quietly. James felt a chill run down his spine, wondering how his life had changed in just a few minutes. He looked around nervously, hoping someone else might see this strange girl. But the streets were empty and silent. No one else could help him now. Lyra reached out her hand, small but glowing with power. "Take my hand, and I will show you things you never imagined," she said softly. James hesitated. He wanted to say no, to run away as fast as he could, but a part of him was curious about this small alien girl and her strange powers. He slowly reached out, and their hands touched. A wave of energy passed through him, and suddenly, his world changed. Colors became brighter, sounds clearer, and his mind filled with visions, stars exploding, worlds colliding, and a great darkness spreading through the universe. He saw the alien girl's home planet, a beautiful world in pain. He felt her fear, her hope, and her need for help. When the visions faded, James was left breathless and confused. Lyra looked at him with eyes full of hope. "You understand now. You can help me save my world, but first, you must trust me." James swallowed hard. How could he trust someone who controlled his every move? But deep inside, he knew his life had changed forever. He was no longer just a man walking home. He was part of something much bigger. As night fell and the city lights began to shine, James took a deep breath. He nodded slowly to Lyra. "Okay. I will help you," she smiled, A real smile this time, warm and gentle. Together, they walked into the dark streets. But James could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Because this tiny alien girl was not just small in size, she controlled everything he did, and soon he would learn just how deep her control went. The adventure was just starting, and the true danger was still waiting in the shadows. After that strange night, James felt different. He tried to go back to his normal life, but nothing was the same. Every step he took, every move he made, felt like someone else was guiding him. At first, he thought it was just his mind playing tricks, but soon, he realized something darker was controlling him. One morning, James woke up and wanted to get out of bed, but his body would not obey. His hands stayed still, his feet did not move. A quiet voice echoed in his mind, soft but clear. "Do not move until I say," it said. James felt a shock and looked around, but no one was there. Then he heard a soft giggle coming from the corner of the room. Lyra appeared, small and calm. As always, her purple eyes shined with a strange light. James wanted to ask her what was happening, but his mouth would not move. He was trapped inside his own body. Lyra walked closer and touched his hand. Suddenly, James could move again, but only because she let him. Lyra smiled. "You see, James, you are connected to me now." He tried to speak, but his words felt weak. "Why are you doing this to me?" He finally said, "To protect you." Lyra replied, "And to protect my mission." James felt angry and scared, but he knew fighting would do no good. His mind was not free. Invisible chains held him tight. Days passed, and James noticed small things changing. He could not leave his apartment without Lyra's permission. If he tried, a sharp pain would stop him, like electricity in his veins, his phone, his computer. Even the locks on his door seemed to answer to her will. It was as if she was everywhere, watching and controlling. James felt like a puppet, and Lyra was the puppeteer. One evening, his best friend Mark came to visit. Mark noticed James' strange behavior immediately. "Hey man, you okay?" "You seem different," Mark said. James wanted to explain, but the words got stuck. Lyra stood silently in the corner, watching. James could only nod or shake his head when Mark asked questions. Mark grew worried and decided to help. He stayed with James for a few days, watching carefully. One night, Mark saw James trying to reach for a glass of water, but his hand froze halfway. Mark shouted, "James, what's wrong?" James' eyes widened, and for a moment, he looked like he wanted to scream. Then Lyra appeared, and Mark could see her small figure glowing faintly. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. "Who are you?" he demanded. Lyra smiled but said nothing. Mark tried to grab her, but his hand passed through empty air. "It's like she's not really here," Mark whispered. James tried to explain with his eyes, but the invisible force kept him silent. The next day, Mark started searching for answers. He looked online for stories about aliens or mind control. He found strange reports of a tiny alien race with powerful abilities. They were said to be able to link their minds with humans and control them. Mark realized James was in serious trouble. He knew he had to find a way to break Lyra's control before it was too late. Meanwhile, Lyra watched everything with quiet interest. She knew Mark was dangerous to her plans, but she also felt something new, a strange feeling of care for James. Even though she controlled him, she did not want to hurt him. Her mission was important. But so was James' life. One night, James woke up sweating and gasping. He dreamed of being free, running through open fields under a blue sky. But every time he ran, invisible hands pulled him back. He opened his eyes to see Lyra sitting at the edge of his bed. Her voice was soft. "You are stronger than you think, James, but you must learn to trust me." James wanted to believe her, but fear held him tight. He thought about the chains he felt every day. He wanted freedom, but he did not know how to get it. Lyra reached out and touched his forehead. Images flashed in his mind, visions of stars, battles, and a great threat coming to Earth. He saw how small Lyra's world was fading away. He understood her pain and why she needed his help. The next Morning, James woke with a new sense of purpose. He decided to try and work with Lyra. If she controlled him, maybe he could use that to learn more. He started paying attention to the small signs, when Lyra would allow him to move, when he could think clearly, and when the chains felt weaker. But one evening, when James was walking alone outside, the chains tightened suddenly. He stopped. Frozen in place, from the shadows, a dark figure appeared, tall and powerful. James recognized the danger immediately. Lyra appeared beside him, her small frame glowing fiercely. "Stay behind me," she whispered. "This enemy will not stop." Dark figure smiled cruelly. "You think your small power can save you? I will take her back, and you will be nothing." James felt terror rise, but also a strange courage. He looked at Lyra and saw her ready to fight. The invisible chains were not just to control him anymore. They were a bond together, small alien. And humans stood against the growing darkness. But James knew this was only the beginning of a long and dangerous journey. His life was no longer his own, but maybe, just maybe, he could turn the invisible chains into strength. James could no longer deny the strange connection between him and Lyra. He wanted answers, but the alien girl was quiet, watching him with her deep purple eyes. One evening, James decided to ask her again. "Lyra, why me? Why do you control everything I do?" She looked at him sadly. "Because you are special." "James, your mind can handle what others cannot." James frowned. "What do you mean? What is it that I can do?" Lyra took a deep breath and began to explain. "Long ago, my people were the rulers of many stars. We had powers over minds and matter. But with great power came great enemies." James listened carefully as she told stories of ancient wars, lost planets, and hidden secrets. She said, "Our powers come from the heart of the universe, a source called the core. It gives us control over energy, life, and thought." James' eyes widened. "That sounds like magic," he said. Quietly, Lyra smiled softly. "It is more science than magic, but yes, to others, it looks like magic." She stood and walked to a small table where a glowing orb floated. "This orb holds a part of the core's power," she said. "It allows me to connect with you and others." James reached out to touch the orb, but Lyra stopped him gently. "Not yet. The power is strong. If you are not ready, it can harm you." He nodded, feeling the weight of the secret she carried. "Why did your people come here? Why did you come to Earth?" James asked, his voice low. Lyra's face grew serious. "Our world is dying because the core is weakening. If the core dies, our powers will vanish, and our race will end." She looked into James' eyes. "I came here to find a way to save it, but I cannot do it alone. I need your help." James felt a mixture of fear and hope. He wanted to help but feared losing control of his own life forever. "How do you want me to help?" he asked. Lyra stepped closer. "You have a unique mind that can connect with the core's energy. You can help me find the hidden places where the core's power still lives." That night, Lyra shared more visions with James. He saw distant planets, secret gates, and ancient machines sleeping beneath the ground. He saw dangers, to dark creatures hunting for the core's power. The visions made James' heart pound with fear, but also with determination. In the following days, James tried to learn from Lyra. She taught him how to sense the core's energy around him. At first, it was confusing and painful, but slowly, James began to feel small pulses of power within himself. He realized the invisible chains were also a guide, leading him toward his true potential. One afternoon, while walking through the city park, James stopped suddenly. He felt a strong pull, a signal from the core. Lyra appeared beside him. "You found it," she whispered. Together, they followed the energy toward an old, abandoned building inside. The air was thick and heavy. James felt the core's power growing stronger, but hidden. Lyra explained, "This place holds an ancient device that can connect us to the core. If we can activate it, we can gain the power to save my world." James nodded, though a deep worry settled in his chest. As they approached the device, strange shadows flickered. In the corners, suddenly, the dark creatures from the visions appeared. They were tall and menacing, with glowing eyes and sharp claws. James froze, but Lyra's small frame glowed fiercely. She stepped forward, sending waves of energy that pushed the creatures back. The battle was brief but intense. James felt the core's energy flowing through him. He raised his hands, and with Lyra's help, they formed a shield of light. The creatures hissed and vanished into the darkness. Lyra smiled. "You did well, James." Together, they activated the device. A beam of pure energy shot into the sky. Connecting with the core, James felt a rush of power and knowledge. Visions of the universe's past and future flashed before his eyes. He saw the fate of Lyra's people and the danger Earth might face. But just as hope grew, a warning echoed. In his mind, be careful. Not all who seek the core wish it well. James looked at Lyra, who nodded gravely. "We must move quickly. Others will come for this power," she said, as they left the building. James knew their journey was far from over. He had learned secrets of her power, but also the heavy cost. The invisible chains still bound him, but now he understood their purpose. He was part of a mission that could save a dying world or destroy two. The night sky stretched above them, filled with stars and unknown dangers. James and Lyra walked side by side, ready to face whatever came next. Their bond was strange and new, but it was the only hope left. And deep inside, James felt a spark of something he had never known: trust. The days grew darker for James and Lyra. The invisible chains that bound James tightened, but inside him, a storm was growing. He no longer wanted to be controlled, but he feared what might happen if he fought back. His mind was a battlefield, torn between fear and the desire for freedom. Lyra watched him carefully. She knew her powers were strong, but James was stronger than she expected. She could see the conflict in his eyes, the struggle between trust and doubt. One evening, James sat alone. Staring at his hands, he whispered, "Why am I still trapped if you say you trust me?" Lyra appeared beside him, her small form glowing softly. "You are not trapped, James. You are connected," she said. "But it feels like chains," he replied, voice heavy with pain. "I want to choose, to be free, but I don't know how." Lyra's eyes softened. "Control is easy, but trust is harder to give. I have kept you safe by guiding you, but now you must find your own path." James looked at her, hope and fear mixing in his heart. He realized their bond was not just control, but something deeper, something fragile. Suddenly, a loud crash shattered the quiet. Aliens from Lyra's world had arrived. They were tall, armored warriors, their eyes cold and merciless. Their leader stepped forward, pointing at Lyra. "She has betrayed us," he said, voice like thunder. "Take her back at once." Lyra stood tall despite her small size, her powers flaring bright. James felt the invisible chains pull harder, but now he tried to fight. He wanted to protect her, but also to protect himself. The warriors moved forward, and the air filled with tension. James took a deep breath and raised his hands. A shield of light formed around him, guided by Lyra's power and his own growing strength. The warriors attacked with energy blasts and sharp weapons. James and Lyra fought side by side, their bond growing stronger with every move. Inside James, the battle raged between fear, control, and the desire for freedom. He felt Lyra's power flowing through him, but also his own will rising. He realized he could share control, not just be controlled. This thought gave him new strength. As the fight continued, James reached out with his mind. He connected with Lyra, sharing his fear and hope. She responded, letting go of some control, trusting him more. Together, they created a powerful wave of energy, pushing the warriors back. The leader snarled, "This is not over," and retreated with his warriors. James and Lyra stood alone, breathing heavily. James looked at her and smiled. "Maybe we can fight this together." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but we must be careful. There are more enemies out there." Days later, James found himself thinking deeply. He practiced controlling the power flowing. Through him, he learned to move without Lyra's commands. But with her guidance, the invisible chains became lighter, almost like threads connecting two hearts. One night, James dreamed of a bright light. He saw Lyra's homeworld, beautiful but fading. He saw her people suffering and hoped they could be saved, but the dream warned him, if he failed, the darkness would spread to Earth too. When he woke, James knew the battle was not just outside but inside himself. He had to overcome his fears and accept the strange bond with Lyra. Only then could they face the dangers ahead. Lyra approached him with a small device glowing softly. "This will help you control the power inside you," she explained. James took it carefully, feeling the warmth of hope. Together, they prepared for the next step of their journey. The city outside slept, unaware of the battles in the shadows. James and Lyra stood ready, united by trust and strength. Their fight was not just for survival, but for freedom and hope. The invisible chains were still there, but now they felt like a promise that they would face the darkness together, and that no matter what came next, they would never be alone. James and Lyra had fought many battles together, but now the real truth was ready to come out. One evening, as the stars shone bright in the sky, Lyra took James to a secret place, a hidden cave deep beneath the city, glowing with strange light inside. The cave, ancient symbols covered the walls. Lyra touched one symbol, and a holographic image appeared. It showed her people, strong and proud, ruling many worlds long ago. But then it showed a great war, destruction, and a terrible enemy. James watched closely as the story unfolded. Lyra explained, "Our people were guardians of the core's power, but a dark force called the Void attacked us, trying to steal the core's energy." James felt a chill. The Void was the enemy they had been fighting all along. Lyra continued, "The Void wants to destroy all life that depends on the core. If they win, not only my world but many others, including Earth, will fall." James looked at her. "Why? Did you come here alone? Where are the others?" Lyra's eyes grew sad. "Most of my people were captured or destroyed. I am one of the last, sent to find help and save what remains." James felt the weight of her words. He realized this was bigger than just him or Lyra. It was a war for the survival of many worlds. He asked, "How can I help stop the Void?" Lyra smiled faintly. "There's a secret weapon hidden on Earth. It can strengthen the core's power and push the Void back, but it is locked away, protected by ancient technology." James nodded. Feeling a new purpose rising in him, they began searching for clues to find this weapon. Using the knowledge from the cave and Lyra's powers, their journey led them to an old research lab abandoned decades ago. The place was dark and dusty, filled with strange machines and papers. As they explored, James felt the invisible chains loosen slightly. He was learning to work with Lyra, not just be controlled by her. Suddenly, they heard footsteps. Someone else was there. A man appeared, his eyes filled with suspicion, holding a strange device. "I am Dr. Kramer," he said. "I have been studying alien technology for years. I know about Lyra's kind and the danger they bring." James felt tension rise, unsure if Dr. Kramer was friend or foe. Lyra stepped forward. "We need your help to stop the Void," she said calmly. Dr. Kramer hesitated, but then nodded. He led them to a hidden chamber deep inside the lab. There, they found a large device covered with symbols similar to the cave. "This is the weapon you seek," Dr. Kramer said, "but it needs a special energy to start." James realized this was their only chance. Lyra and he combined their powers, sending energy into the device. It began to hum and glow, lights flashing as it came to life. But suddenly, alarms blared. Someone was trying to break in. The Void's agents had found them. Dark figures appeared outside, attacking the lab. James and Lyra prepared for battle. The invisible chains now felt like bonds of trust, not prison. As the fight began, James understood the truth. He was not alone. And neither was Lyra. Together, with new allies and ancient power, they would stand against the coming darkness. The secret weapon was their hope. But the battle to save two worlds was far from over. James looked at Lyra. "We have to be ready." "For anything," she nodded, "because the void will not stop until everything is destroyed." Outside, the night raged with conflict, but inside, hope burned bright. And the hidden truth had finally been revealed. The air was thick with tension. As James and Lyra stood side by side, the secret weapon hung softly behind them, its power ready to be unleashed. Outside, the void's agents gathered, their dark forms moving closer. James felt the invisible chains tighten around his mind. But this time, he was ready to fight. For the first time, James did not feel like a prisoner. He had learned to share control with Lyra, not just obey her. His will was strong, and together, their powers became one. Lyra smiled at him. "We can do this, James. Trust yourself." The battle began with a roar. The void's agents attacked. In waves, shooting bolts of dark energy, James raised his hands, and a shield of bright light formed. Lyra sent pulses of energy, pushing the enemy back. But the enemy was relentless. James felt his strength fading, the chains pulling harder. He knew he had to break free. To fight not just for Lyra, but for himself. Closing his eyes, he reached deep inside, searching for the spark of his own power. Memories of his life before Lyra, his dreams and hopes filled his mind. He grabbed the invisible chains with all his will and pulled. The chains cracked and shattered like glass. James gasped as freedom flooded his senses. Now fully himself, James unleashed a wave of energy. The void's agents were thrown back, their dark forms breaking apart. Lyra laughed with joy, her small body glowing brighter than ever. Together, they activated the secret weapon, a beam of light shooting into the sky. The beam connected with the core. Energy flowed through James and Lyra, healing the damage. James felt a deep bond with the universe. He saw the past, present, and future all at once. But victory came with a price. The void's leader appeared, a shadowy figure taller and darker than the rest. His voice echoed, "You may have broken the chains, but the war is not over." James stood tall. "No longer afraid, we will fight until the end," he said firmly. Lyra took his hand, her power steady and strong. "We fight as one," she said. Together, they faced the dark figure, ready for the final battle. The city around them held its breath. Two worlds connected by hope and courage. The invisible chains were gone, replaced by trust and strength, and James knew this was only the beginning of their true journey. The final battle had ended. James and Lyra stood together under the quiet stars. The darkness had been pushed back, but the fight had changed them both. The invisible chains that once bound James were gone, replaced by something new. Trust. James looked at Lyra, the small alien girl who had controlled everything he did. But now they were equals, partners in a strange and powerful bond. "I never thought I would feel this free again," James said softly. Lyra smiled, her purple eyes glowing gently. "Freedom comes with trust," she replied. Their journey had been long and hard, filled with danger and secrets. But through it all, they had learned to rely on each other. James had found strength inside himself he never knew existed, and Lyra had found a friend and ally in a world far from her own. As they walked through the quiet city streets, James felt the core's energy pulsing softly around them. It was alive, healing, and full of hope. Together, they had saved not just one world, but two. But even in peace, new challenges awaited. The universe was vast, and darkness still lurked in far places. James and Lyra knew their fight was not over, but now they faced it side by side, with courage and trust. One evening, under the stars, James spoke. "What happens now?" Lyra looked up. "Now we build a new future. One where control is shared, not forced. Where power is used to protect, not to bind." James nodded. Feeling a calm he had never known, he took Lyra's small hand in his. feeling the warmth and strength. "You don't control me," he said with a smile. "We are one," she replied softly. Their story was far from over, but in that moment, they were free, free to choose, free to trust, and free to face whatever the stars would bring. The tiny alien girl who once controlled everything was now a friend, and James, the man who once felt trapped, was now a guardian of hope. Together, they walked into the night, bound not by chains, but by a bond stronger than any power. Their adventure had only just begun.